Okay, we're rolling.
All right.
Take the floor, boss. Take the reins.
Just what do you want me to do? Say who I
Um,
am, what
well, I read that post you've literally just put up, and I think
Oh
it was
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So
Just literally.
yeah, go
um
straight in the deep end.
okay. Well, I mean, I kind of backstory a little bit. Hopefully it won't take me too long to explain. I was an athlete a long time. I did gymnastics competitively for about 12 years. And then after I quit, I did dance and cheerleading in through college. Got out of that for a while. You know, in your college, you drink and you just want to have fun. And you kind of still do some stuff to stay in shape, but not much. So I would go to the gym and mostly just kind of be like, woo, here's a treadmill run. I'll do that. Oh, a bike. I don't know. I'll do some sit-ups. Like, and I had a degree in health stuff, so I knew exercises. I knew how to do stuff. It was just like I didn't have the drive, I guess, and then I didn't. I just didn't have like structure, so that made it tough too. So that was, my early 20s. I again just kind of went through the motions. I never really like gained a ton of weight, but if I look back at pictures, I can tell that I wasn't like super healthy. You can just see, bloated face and the body fat that's there and just not muscle tone and things like that. So it wasn't like a bad thing because I was happy with my body, but now looking back, I'm like, whoa, I really like let myself kind of go in a way, compared to what I used to do, being really active. So I met my husband when we were, well, he's a little bit older than me, but I was in my mid 20s at the time. My husband is a very active person. He's a big runner. He's been competitive, semi-pro, at running, and now he's kind of ventured into the long distance endurance, like 50 miles plus kind of thing. He's a little bit crazy, but it's a good thing because it made me, better. But I met him at the time, like I said, I was kind of just like, but then with him being like that, being really motivated, he's also in the Navy as well. So he's, just got that mentality, that mindset to just be strong-willed and keep yourself fit and things like that makes you feel good. So we started running together. I was not running that much, but we started doing little bits here and there. And then I was also in school at the time to be a physical therapist assistant. So I had a classmate who did CrossFit, and I was kind of like, okay, I've heard of CrossFit, but like I didn't really know much about it. I also, because I was a gymnast, I would see some of the stuff and it was just like, it kind of made me cringe watching some of it. Like, oh my God, that handstand walk is like, or those handstand push-ups, and the pull-ups. I mean, now I know the fundamentals and how much strength you actually need for butterfly pull-ups. But at the time I was like, what is this crap that they're doing? Like, this isn't a pull-up. Like, so I was like, I don't know. I just feel like these people are just, they're going to hurt themselves. They just are doing like things, just it looks terrible. Again, I came from a very structured like background where it was very much like technique. And I still try to instill that in people that I coach, but it doesn't always work out. And you obviously see people not necessarily caring about it as much, but that doesn't mean you can't still be really good at what you're doing. So I went to my first class with my husband, boyfriend at the time, because I was like, oh, she's talking about it. I just want to try it. I want to see what it's like. I've always wanted to kind of get back into fitness with the kind of intensity that I used to have training as a gymnast. Because for me, I like that feeling of just being like dead on the floor in a way afterwards. Not necessarily like, you just wrecked your body dead, but you got something out of it. You feel accomplished. Your heart rate's up, or maybe you lifted something like you just never thought you could do. So that was something I came from, those types of training sessions. So I wanted that feeling again. So I went to the class. It was a beginner's class, so it wasn't like major in your face, but it still got me that feeling where I was like, whoa, okay, I kind of like this. This might be what I need. So then we moved up to Maryland for my husband's job, and we officially started at a gym there. And that was actually when I had my very first, like, I would say real CrossFit class. I wish I could remember what the workout was or what we did. I have absolutely no idea. I think I blacked out because I can't remember anything about it other than being like, what the hell just happened to me? I love this. And then the next several days I was just so sore, like I could barely move. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I want. But I wish I could remember what the workout was, because I'm kind of curious what it was now. I remember some of my early classes where like little things happened, but I don't know. So that's kind of like the backstory, how I got into it. After being a physical therapist assistant officially, I was working, doing that full time. I was doing CrossFit, and I was like, I kind of think I kind of want to coach. Like, this is pretty cool. I like how, these coaches are changing people's lives. I like the mentality behind everything. With focusing on just general health. It wasn't just like go into a class and kill yourself. It's like, okay, these are why we're doing this. This is what it's for. But also you need to base your stuff back to recovery and fueling your body and eating properly. And at that time I was just kind of eating whatever I wanted. I was like, I'm not going to track my food. I'm not going to pay attention to that. So that's kind of started making the wheels turn. I got my level 1 about 6 months after starting CrossFit, and then started coaching after that. And that was about 5 years ago. So it's weird to say 5 years ago, because I'm like, where does the time go? But roughly that's about how long. In the meantime, I got some other online certifications for CrossFit. My gymnastics cert. I just actually signed up for my weightlifting course online, and then I'm in the process now of finishing my precision level 1 nutrition course. So it kind of everything just went boom, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is pretty cool stuff. Again, working as a therapist, I was having a really hard time working with patients that had no desire to get better in a way. You work with people that come in, they're obese. They have just terrible comorbidities, just general health. They don't eat right. They have absolutely no desire to exercise. And they come to you and they're like, my back hurts. And I'm like, well, I mean, I would never say this in this way, but I'm like, okay, well, look at yourself in the mirror. You're 300 pounds and you should be probably 150 pounds. I guarantee your back would not hurt if you lost the weight and if you actually strengthened your body and you ate well, and things like that. And it was everything. And it was just like you would work with these people every day, and yeah, you'd get them better, but guess what? They'd come back 6 months later because they'd stop doing their exercises. They would stop being active if that's what they finally got into. They wouldn't eat right. And it was just like this constant, just like circle. And you were like, oh my gosh, I can't, I can't do it. So that's kind of what I was talking about earlier about my job being very stressful. I would just come home and I was just like, oh my gosh, I hate this. I liked helping people that did actually care and people that really did want to get better. That was very rewarding. I mean, specifically, it tends to be the athletes because they're very motivated, they're driven. But there are people that you can change their ways. So there were some good things. It wasn't all bad. But that's kind of why I've fallen into more of the CrossFit mentality, with just trying to get better with health and fitness, and slowly building up my own business where I can just work as a trainer, as a nutrition coach, and just kind of help people live sustainable, healthy lives, based on science, and not the fad crap you see out there with the body belts that shake your fat away, or things like that. So I want to teach people that you can be healthy, you can be happy, and you can hit your goals and live your life as long as possible. And it doesn't have to suck, because for the time I thought that myself. So that's kind of like the backstory of what happened, why I kind of got to this point. So with the posts that I posted just recently, just kind of about dealing with like self-doubt and stuff, I guess maybe it's the lockdown, I don't know, but it's kind of been more in the past few months that I've been kind of just feeling like, I guess now I'm kind of realizing, just based on conversations with my husband and my own self-reflection, it's just kind of me like making myself feel bad for no reason, and you're just kind of stuck in a rut. And I've gotten very comfortable with where I've been because I'm comfortable. I have no reasons to kind of get out of what I've been doing because it's been good so far. But with what I want to build in the future, I just know I have to get out of that mindset, that comfortableness. You've got to be uncomfortable. You have to fail. As much as I really hate failing, because everybody does, but it really does kind of get to me a lot. I know that that's important. So I'm just trying to like be like, you know what, let's just do something. This right here is something that like makes me, well, I'm feeling better now, but I was very nervous. I'm like, oh my God, this is like really out of my element. I don't talk a lot about the things that I'm passionate about. Just because I feel weird, I guess. I know that's really stupid, but you feel uncomfortable, and so you're like, I don't want to share my story. No one's gonna listen. No one's gonna care. And so that's kind of where I've been. And I'm just like, you know what? I have to start kind of putting myself out there. Otherwise, I'm never gonna help other people get past those things. And obviously, with just things I've learned. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
I knocked the cord over and it just pulled the whole thing off. Yeah, so you just have to you have to get used to that so you can teach other people how to overcome it. So yeah, that's kind of what that's about. And I'm trying to be better. It's not going to be something I'm going to just immediately probably snap out of, but this is kind of my first step into getting out there and kind of just telling people that, it's okay to feel this way, but you have to kind of push through and persevere in order to kind of make your dreams come true. And, whether that's fitness based, health based, work related, it could be anything. So just kind of where I'm coming from. And like I said, it's been a long time coming. My husband and I have a lot of conversations about stuff like this. He's, as I said before, a very like determined, strong-willed person. That's what he does. He's kind of come from times in his life where he's had to really persevere and push through and deal with adversity, and he's come out a better person. And so he does really well with stuff like that, where I don't necessarily, but he's definitely teaching me to kind of learn, just to believe in yourself, I guess, a little bit more. So that's kind of where that comes from.
And that's is really powerful, and a lot of people, in fact, I think everyone in some degree struggles with it. Whether it's the whole social media game, whether it's just in their own head, or whether it's like you say, like a job or relationship or whatever. Like there's always going to be that doubt, and if anyone ever says, no, I never doubt myself or whatever, I know I can do it, like they're fucking lying to your face. Like everyone has that conversation with themselves, like, whoa, hold on a minute, like I could legitimately like trip up here and it might not work. But does it necessarily matter? Like you're just gonna get up and dust yourself off, right? And the way I see it is, if you think you're providing value and no one else takes it, you're still providing the opportunity for people to benefit from it. And it's all about opportunity, right? They like you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you could give, I don't know, the best information out there. You could just pop it out there. It's free to give. You'll coach people for free or whatever. There's no barriers whatsoever. But it's no necessarily people are not going to take it. You know what I mean? Like it's like, well, this is what you believe. you stand by it, you're passionate about it, stick it up there. If people take it, wicked. If people don't, wicked. You're still going to do the same stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. And that's actually kind of exactly what my husband said to me last night when we were talking. He was like, who cares if 1 million people don't read your thing and don't like benefit from it and they don't care? And he's like, but one person could. And I was like, you're right. Like, I need to stop just looking at the big. Sometimes I need to look at the small. And so that's exactly what he said, and basically what you just said. Someone's going to benefit from it, even if you don't necessarily realize it. But that shouldn't be why you stop, because you're helping someone. And if you're not helping someone, maybe you're helping yourself. I don't know.
There you go. And it's funny because you might not get the recognition you deserve, right? Someone might not come up to you and go like, oh, you really helped me with this, blah blah blah, or message you or whatever. Yet they'll go home and they'll think about it. So you don't get that like sort of admiration, I guess, the pat on the back, but your job has already been done. You know what I mean? So you can safely sit down at night and just be like, yeah, I know one person's like benefited from it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm trying to definitely think of it in that way now, which is going to take some hard getting used to, I think. But because we're humans, we like to see the big picture a lot of times, but we don't really realize all the tiny things that go into the picture. So I am trying my very best to be better at it, but it is going to be a hard thing. But gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. It's just a daily grind, right? It's just like breaking bread every day. Sort of put one piece of the jigsaw on the table and keep plugging the pieces together. It's funny because people will ask me, right, or they'll sort of voice a bit of frustration. They're like, God damn, like how have these people all got it together, sort of thing. And I'm like, look, they don't know what they're doing. They're all just failing their way there, or faking it till they make it, or all these different sayings. And it's true. Like when you start, you have a ton of self-doubt. You don't know whether it's going to work, and you have no idea what you're doing. And the next thing you know, 6 months down the line, 10 years down the line, whatever, you end up figuring it out, and you look back and you're just like, oh, wow, that's only because I like failed 1,000,001 times and just got up one more time.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely hard to wait to the future to see that, but it is. Once you can look back, you do, or you're like, wow, okay, I did that.
Yeah.
But if it's good, you have to remember that the good sometimes it's over the corner, over the hill, basically. But it's true, because you're right. I feel like I probably have seemed in a way like I'm all together and I'm like super motivated all the time. And like I said, I try really hard to be that way. But I'm human. I have my doubts, and sometimes you do have to kind of fake it till you make it and kind of push through and drive through and fail. And I'm trying to like put my failures out there maybe a little bit more too, for hopefully that will help people realize that I'm not perfect and I have just as many issues as the next person. We all have our own battles to kind of work through. And so I'm going to try to do that more, just because I think it does help, because it helps me when I see other successful people, post something that's like, oh, I thought I was doing great, and then this happened or something, and just kind of make you like realize, oh, we're all human. We all have to deal with that sometimes, and even the greats of the greats have to do that as well. So I'm not great yet, but maybe in a few months or something I will be. So everyone needs to see the futures.
Yeah, like it's just everyone's got a story, right? And some people just have a little bit more twists and turns in their story than other people. And like, hey, it's just the interesting part of the autobiography. Like if you sat down and paid 10 quid to go to the pictures and watch a movie, and you sit down, it was like, oh, once upon a time there was a happy couple. They lived happily ever after the end. You'd be like, well, that was 10 quid wasted. Like, what happened? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
whole plot line is there's a twist, and then obviously it's solved at the end or whatever, and we watch movies every day or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
you expect the twist, you expect something to go wrong, yet we relate that to our lives, and then we expect everything to go right.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
And
definitely.
it doesn't make any sense, but hey, we are human. We don't make sense.
That's true. Yeah, we're trying to weed our way through the crazy confusion of life every day.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing ever.
No,
Probably.
we just failed our way here. Like that's the secret, if you wanna give it that name, the label. But yeah, we literally just failed our way here. Like, what was Edison was like was it 1,000 attempts before he made the light bulb?
I think it was something crazy like that. Yeah.
Something mental, and you're just like, all right, well, 1,000 attempts. We use a light bulb every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that could go with any invention that's out there. It's like, how
Yeah.
many times did they just keep messing and messing and messing until they were like, oh, it works.
Mm.
So yeah. And I've actually like I think it was today, I read a quote and I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was just kind of like a lot of people they fail, and then they don't really realize how close they are to like succeeding, and then they
Mm.
give up like right before that. And so um you know, that was kind of interesting, because I was like, yeah, that is probably very true. You probably have been like really close to being really good at something, and then you were just like, I've failed so many times, I just don't want to do it anymore, so I'm done. And
Mm.
that was maybe that one more chance you wanted to do whatever it was, you could have, and like, oh wow, there it is.
Yeah,
So
it does make you wonder, like, how many things you could have done in the past.
yeah.
You know, when you end up throwing in the white towel and you're like, nah, this is it. I've had enough, sort of thing. Whether it's physical attributes, whether it's work wise or what, it does make you wonder. But at the same time, if we wonder what we could have done, we're going to be here all day. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're never going to change
That
and you're
is
never
very
going to do
true.
anything. Uh,
Yeah, definitely true, for sure. Can't dwell on it too much. But
it's a really hard skill to master, to like take the lesson and leave the hurt, sort of thing, or leave the wonder. You just kind of take what you need, take the good stuff, and then like sod off into the future going forward. Like it's a really hard lesson to learn.
mhm. I think it's something we probably are always really learning,
Mm,
that lesson in particular, because yeah, it's, you might have learned it once and then you're going to get back to a certain point and then you're like, oh, I got to learn this one again, because
yeah,
you kind
yeah,
of forget maybe what it felt like, or how it worked. I don't know, because I mean, like I said before, you get comfortable. It's just like you kind of forget that you have failed in the past, and you came out stronger or better, or maybe it just took you in a different direction. But you forget about that if you're comfortable too long, which I have definitely been,
mm,
I think, comfortable too long. And so it is really important just to kind of get yourself in a different routine, different mindset, because yeah, you're just going to be stuck if you don't.
mm. So
So
that's a really important point. So how how did you take yourself out of that comfortable situation and then throw yourself into an uncomfortable situation? And why did you want to do that? Because a lot of people won't, and a lot of people will acknowledge the fact of, oh yeah, I could do that, but why would I want to do it? Because I've built this like nice life for myself. You know what I mean? Like, why? Why did you do it?
I mean, I think really it's come from a lot, like I said, a lot of conversations with my husband, with just he's always, I don't know, been he's someone I look up to, because he's always striving for more. And so it kind of gives you a little kick in the butt in a
Mm,
way, to be like, yeah, you gotta, if he's doing all these things because he wants to be better, to be more, to learn more, then why wouldn't I want to kind of take my chances, um, and do the same thing? Um, Also, just for me, because I'm wanting to build this business that I didn't really know was something I wanted to do until probably about, I don't know, six months to a year ago. I kind of started getting the idea of it. But I'm not going to be able to build that without doing things that really maybe make me uncomfortable or suck. And I've never been one to like I kind of said before, I feel awkward talking about stuff a lot of times because I feel like maybe people don't care, they don't listen. And so I've been like, oh, I don't want to talk about the importance of whatever or fitness and health and nutrition because people probably will just be like, oh, cool. But they don't really listen or care. And so I've kind of got, like, why would I say stuff about this? Why would I talk about it? And so I've just kind of gotten there, and I haven't like been used to putting my voice out there for a long time. And so I'm kind of like, I'm never gonna share those things with people and make someone's life better if I don't start getting uncomfortable and just putting myself out there and stop being just kind of a little baby in a way where you're just, in your sheltered world and everything's done for you. I just don't want that to be something I look back on later. So that's kind of what has kind of driven me. Again, it wasn't something I just like woke up and I was like, I need to do this. It's been a lot of hard conversations with my husband and just different things that have happened in life. And so I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you really do need to just stop being this way because it's taking a toll on your mental health. And then it's also just, you're not going to help anybody. And that's what you want to do. Because that is what I want to do and help people. But I can't help anyone if I never talk about it or, put myself out there and things like that. And so I know that that's what I need to do to grow and to get better. So that's kind of where that came from.
I was exactly the same. Like, I'm a huge introvert at heart. You know what I mean? Like, leave me on my own and I'm fine. Like, no problem. I don't really want to.
Yeah.
Well, I'll socialize, but then deep down, I just want to, calm down with my cat and just kind of crack on and be in the corner, sort of thing. And then you think to yourself, I'm like, well, how am I supposed to help people, especially in our craft, right? Our profession of this whole fitness game. Like, we need to be kind of a face. We need to be personable. We need to be a little bit out there and roll with the punches in the ring. So like if you're always in the office or like shied away and not really use your voice, like it's really hard to be able to do that. And you'll find like, I don't know, what was it, like the first 4 years, maybe 3-4 years, like I'd say 90% of the things that I would do and say and lead from the front with or whatever, people didn't even bat an eyelid. You know what I mean? They're just like, whatever, mate, like fuck off, get out my face. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
The next thing you know, they turn around and be like, oh my God, that's incredible. How did you do that? So such and such. Like, well,
Yeah.
you saw me doing it 4 years ago. I'm doing the same stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, like,
Yeah.
stick at it, stay with it, keep rolling with those punches. I love that quote by Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I've read it before, but I don't think it really like resonated with me until recently. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's true. Because it does make you better.
And
'cause, yeah, she's wise.
very wise lady. Do you know Les Brown?
The name is not familiar to me.
He's probably one of my favorites. I'll go back to him whenever shit hits the fan for me. And one of his most potent quotes, in my opinion, is the wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard, because people take with them things that they should have done in their lifetime and they never do it. And if you think of that, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
End of the day, we're not going to take it with us.
Right.
If you're dead, you're dead. You're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to use it. If we believe, we go elsewhere, wherever, spiritual realm, heaven, hell, whatever you believe, it doesn't really matter. Again, you can't take it with you.
Yeah,
So
that's very true.
you might as well give it a shot.
Right. Yeah. That is a good way to think, because yeah, I would never have even thought of that.
I
The
mean,
analogy there.
that's why these motivational speakers have a job and we don't have that job, right? Because they come
Yeah,
up
that's very true.
they come up with these crazy things that just lets the penny drop, and you're like, oh my god, that is genius.
Yeah. I do wish I had that. I always like, you think things, but you just can never put it into like words the way that someone did. Like for that reason, the
Mm.
way they said that, or just other ways people have talked, and you're like, oh, I kind of thought that, but I had no idea how to make it be like, oh yeah. So
But
it is amazing what they do. You're like, how do you do that?
I think that's just years of manifestation coming together, you know what I mean? And like to create a line like that, that's taken in what, maybe 30 years of reading, talking to people, like fucking up, practicing his craft, like mentally rehearsing what he's gonna say to like a blank wall, writing down stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we'll be the same in the fitness industry, or
Right.
will be the same of how we want to portray something that we want people to do, even with a class, right? So
Hmm.
I'm big on like mentally rehearsing how you're going to take a class before you end up taking it. And like I'll literally sit or stand in an empty gym and be like blah 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 blah, like actually using my hands, saying it out to an empty gym, and then I'll kind of think back and be like, nah, I like the way that came out, but a different type of learner might not. So okay, I need to change
Hmm.
that word and change this. And I think that's what ends up creating those one-liners that just stick with us for the rest
Yeah,
of our lives, you know.
that's probably true. Yeah, I always, it's funny that you said the thing about rehearsing, because I'm not one to really do that, but there's been times when I've coached a class and then I'm like, you say things that you think are going to make sense and they just don't make sense. And then you're sitting there just like, what is happening right now? I don't know how to fix this. But then the next class, you're like, all right, I'm going to say this, I'm going to do this. So yeah, that's funny that you do that, because that's probably a smart thing to do. But so you don't sit there and you're like, oh my God, my class just went to crap and everyone's doing things wrong and they have no idea what I'm talking about.
Mm.
And then the next class you say it right and they're like, oh yeah, it makes sense. And you're like, why didn't I do that before? But I guess hindsight is 2020 sometimes, right? So
Yep. Yep, 100%. And the only reason why I've done that for like years is because I had years of fucking up. Like you say something in a way and you're like, all right, this is the simplest form I can say this, right? There's no way people aren't going to get it. And someone turns around and goes, I don't understand. You're like, what do you
yeah.
mean you don't understand? Like, it's simple. And
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of have to like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to sit back and I'll
Yeah.
reserve a little bit. And then, it starts touching on, you read Wodify or Team Up or whatever registration the gym uses, and you read who's going to be in the class, and it's like, all right, cool. Like, I know this lady, I know that gentleman,
Hmm.
they're a bit different, blah, 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 blah. And you kind of like learn the people, which is a whole different craft entirely.
Yeah. It does help once you start to get to know people, for sure,
Mm,
to coach people, because you get used to their personalities, their mannerisms,
mm,
what cue works for them, what doesn't. And so yeah, it certainly helps, because sometimes you get your normal people in your class and you're like, oh, I've got this person, like, okay, they're pretty good on their own, like maybe just need a couple things here and there. This person needs this. And then you get a new person that comes to your class and you're like, oh no. And you're like, I don't know what you're like. And then you're kind of on the fly trying to figure out how it's going to work for them. Or especially if they're new to CrossFit, it can be really hard if they walk into your class and you've got a class full of people that know what they're doing. And then you've
mm,
got this one person and they're just a deer in headlights. But it's good, because then it kind of makes you have to learn on the fly. You have to figure it out. It's just kind of probably a good skill that everyone needs to learn. You can't just expect it to be a perfect class. You got to kind of adapt as best you can. But sometimes it's not pretty, but that's what you got to try at least.
100%, 100%. And learning on the fly is a really important skill. And it's like, hey, like, some classes you're going to take is going to be less optimal than others. And that's okay, as long as you go back and be like, all right, okay, cool. Where did I kind of trip up here and whatever? What was the curveball that someone threw at me? Yeah, the amount of times someone's come into class and said something or done something, and it's literally like they've just thrown an absolute yorker at me, and I'm just like, well, what do I do now? Like, I had this lesson plan and everything's like, going to plan, and then you just come in and say that. I'm like, okay, I guess we'll try and survive the next 40 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
fine.
like, oh, we're going to hope for the best, and I'm
Yeah.
going to have you do this, and we're going to pray that it works.
No, the best is when
that's
people come
life.
in and they're like, oh, hey, so, I've torn my hand, my right shoulder's buggered, my left knee's done, I've got backache, and they're just like, oh, but I want to come in and work out. And you're like, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Many a times have I had that happen, not just even in the coaching world, but in my old job, that would happen. People come in and you're just like, oh my, I don't know. You're just like, all right, we're just going to find something. It could be as simple as this, sitting on a chair and standing up or whatever it may be. But yeah, it can be hard when that happens, because you're just like, maybe you shouldn't have come in today. Or maybe you should take a rest day if you're feeling that bad, or you're sick. Maybe you shouldn't be here. But people are people, and they do things, and you just wonder sometimes. But
that's where
that's life.
Yeah, that is life. But that's where coaching kind of becomes a buffer, right? So they come in and like, all right, physically, they maybe should take a day off. They probably shouldn't be in a gym today. However, you can tell this person mentally needs those endorphins. So you're just
Yeah.
like, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to be the detective. I'm going to put my Sherlock Holmes cap on and be like, right, what can I make this individual do that, one, isn't going to knacker them, like physically, they are already pretty broken. And two, is going to give them just enough so when they go home, they're going to feel like a little bit more human.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like buffering. I call it the buffer, because it's like, hey, you train and work out, so hopefully you don't end up developing a load of physical diseases and stuff that side and going towards hospital. And then you also train and work out, so then you don't have to go deep into the therapist or take pharmaceuticals for anything going on upstairs in your head. So we kind of like, we sit in this middle where it's like, right, we're going to try and help everyone. Obviously there's the extreme cases that need to go on and be referred, and that's absolutely sound and cool. But yeah, we're going to try and be like, hey, care about your fitness, so then you don't have to go to the therapist or go this or that or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, do you definitely, you're not just a fitness coach. Sometimes you're you are a therapist. That is a very good way to put it. Especially when I used to work with patients. I felt like half the time, a lot of stuff was more mental than anything, mental disability in a way. Like, they think that they have back pain, so then they have back pain, and then they can't do A, B, C, D, whatever. But then also they live a life, and they're sitting there telling you all their problems, and they leave happier because they just got to kind of chat about that. And that's the same thing in coaching. Yeah, classes are fairly structured, so there's not a lot of time to sit there and chit chat with people a ton, but you do, you're there before class, you're there after class, and you kind of can talk to people a little bit here and there, and you hear them say they had a crappy day or whatever, and then they leave feeling better, and you're kind of there making their day just a little bit better for their own mental sakes, and just things like that. And it definitely, that's kind of the good thing about coaching, and just doing what you do. to help people that way. Cause yeah, it's not always physical, because sometimes it 100% is the mental aspect of things, for people. So it's really important to kind of support people that way. And it can be hard sometimes, because you could have had the crappiest day ever and you're like, I don't want to talk to someone about their dog dying, or whatever it is, because I had a really bad day. But you do have to kind of turn the brain off sometimes and just be like, you know what, they're here because they need this. And in all honesty, sometimes just you talking to them about their issues can sometimes make you feel better from you having a bad day. Maybe you kind of realize like, wow, okay, my bad day is really not the bad day compared to what this person has going on. So it does kind of teach you a lesson that, listening and hearing what people's mental statuses are sometimes are really beneficial for you as a coach, personally, but also just in the way you coach them, you treat them, and things like that. You kind of learn for, how to do things in the future. So it's kind of a good thing, but it can be hard.
Oh, 100%. Like, especially if you're going through like a difficult stage, or even if it's just a difficult day, and then it's like, great, 3, 2, 1, go. And now I've got 60 minutes where I need to be the leader at the front of the class with all those beady eyes looking at you. You're just like, oh, geez, like, what am I going to do now? Like, if they could tell what's in my head, like, they'd probably run the other direction. You know what I mean? But it's like switching hats. You're like, okay, like, I might need a little bit of energy right now, but I'm going to give out more energy. And I know I found my remedy has always been exactly that. So if ever I'm having an absolute shite day, if I nail a class and obviously do it well, and all the other members clearly benefit from it, I'll leave that gym on an absolute high. And I'll feel so much better. And yeah, like you said, it doesn't matter the extremity of how bad the day was. Like, I will literally feel 10 times better simply by
I agree.
You see a member smile and you're like, okay, cool. Like,
Yeah,
finances
I
isn't
will
that.
say, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, it's all right.
Oh, I was just going to say, I will say, kind of piggybacking off of that, is when I had my stressful job and I would go coach afterwards, I worked 40 hours a week. So it wasn't like I was just kind of sitting around. I was busy, but then I would go coach 2 to 3 hours after working. And I will say that just going in usually made my day much better, not just because I would get to work out myself a lot of times, but because I got to just be around people that, cared about their lives, changing their lives, being healthy. And then just, you get, it's a different sense. And again, like you said, you coach a good class, things went really well. Everyone's like, sweaty on the ground, but they're also smiling at the same time, after the initial pain is gone usually. But, that always did make me feel better, because I could have been so tired and had the worst day at work, and then I would go coach, and I was always like just so much happier afterwards, because it just makes you feel so much better. So yeah, I agree with that a lot.
And I think coaching is all mental. It's all the mental side. Like, that's the difference, in my opinion, right? So that's the difference between a coach and a trainer, or a coach and a instructor, or whatever. Like, so you've got, on the one hand, you've got 0 to 60 minutes or 0 to 90 minutes, depending on how long your classes are, of like, all right, I'm going to teach you the movements. All right. And I'm going to make sure you get a workout or whatever. I give you a high five, and then you do one, and then that's it. On the whole coaches aspect, it's like, it goes much, much deeper than that. Like, yeah, we teach movements, but we coach the individual. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, I can tell this lady walks in, I was like, yeah, something has happened. I'm obviously not going to go up into her face and go, hey, you don't look right. What's happened in your day?
Right.
But you're going to be like, oh, okay, she might need a different approach. You kind of need to be in the member's head without them knowing about it. Like, you need to know what they're thinking before they touch a bar, before they start a workout, go on the rower, whatever. And I think that I don't know how you teach that, to be honest. But I think that's coaching. It's all mental.
Yeah.
It's all we teach an air squat so people aren't depressed.
Yeah.
And that concept is crazy, right? But it's all about making sure people don't go home and drink themselves into a coma or pick up a kitchen knife and start slashing their own wrists. It's like
Yeah.
we're gonna focus on your air squat form today. You know, we're gonna give you a slice of that humble pie, and you're also gonna get a really good injection of those endorphins. And I'm going to show you that there is an individual on this planet that cares about your well-being, whether it's physical, mental, or the synergy between them. It's like that. I think that's coaching.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That definitely, yeah, that makes sense. I think I would
It's
never have maybe thought of that like that myself, but yeah, that definitely kind of ties it all in for sure.
especially when you see people come in, right, and they're clearly living a suboptimal life for themselves, right, and they're a little bit suppressed, and you can just tell, like they're happy, but most of the time they're not, or it's 50-50, and you're just like, hold on a minute, you get one life, you shouldn't be 50% happy and 50% not. Like what's the
Yeah.
problem, what's going on here? And then it's like go back to, you coach the individual. We teach movements, but we coach the individual, and that individual might
Yeah.
need something completely different. And then the next thing you know, you get a message saying, oh yeah, like that course that I've always wanted to do. I mean, you're a prime example. Working a job that you didn't want to do, you're a part of an environment. Granted, you were the coach, so it's kind of flipped on its head, but it's exactly the same thing. You're part of that environment. You get what you needed. Everything is given back to you. And the next thing you know, you turn around and be like, well, I'm going to do my PN nutrition. Like I'm going to do this and this. I'm going to do some more courses because this is something that I really want to do. And then you end up changing the path of your life and then being much happier. And all that's
Yeah.
come from is literally like the endorphin rush, the community, people caring, and then someone nailing your air squat form.
Yeah. 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 Cause when I first started CrossFit, obviously I was a member and then I started coaching. So yeah, definitely that's all the stuff that got me into, what I'm in, where I'm going now. It's, you started as a member, the community aspect gets you feel better because you're working out and you're happy. And you obviously realize that your body can do all these crazy things you never thought were possible. So that's also, a win as well. You test your strengths and then you learn how to get better at your weaknesses. And it obviously makes everything better later because you kind of learn from that. And then, you definitely change your life in many ways. It has changed my life in many ways, not just physically and mentally, but like it's obviously taken me into a new path of life. And it's something that makes me happy. They always say you're supposed to do something that you love, not something you're just stuck doing. And I used to think being a therapist was like what I wanted to do and I would love it. And then it was just like, I started doing it and it's like, it's exhausting more than it's like rewarding. And I just was like, wow, I didn't know this would happen. You don't expect it, and you think you know what you want to do for the rest of your life. And then you're like, wait, what? Then you spend all the money on school and you're still paying it off. And you're like, why did I do that? Why didn't I find this beforehand? But it's definitely, it has had its good points because it's taught me a lot, but I'm very thankful for CrossFit and just finding that place that's kind of just taught me that there is more to life and in the fitness world, but also just in, your happiness and your mental health. And you shouldn't do something that you don't like because it does wear on you over time. And it just makes your life terrible. I mean, it really does. You're stressed out. And then that stress carries on to your spouse or significant other, or if you have kids, it carries on to them and your family and your friends. And it's just like, it's ends up being this big bomb of things that might happen eventually, where you are like, oh no, everything exploded, and now what? So it's good when you can realize those things sooner, because a lot of people don't, and it's unfortunate that they are stuck doing things like that. And I'm very fortunate that I have had these opportunities kind of come up for me, because if we hadn't moved, then I would be stuck doing the same thing. Maybe I would still be trying to build a business, but it would probably be a way slower process. Maybe it wouldn't happen because you have too much other things going on. So life is funny that way. As much as I have been slightly depressed in lockdown because it's just been a lot, it's, definitely had its ups for me as well, because again, I've had the chance to finally work on my fitness personally, just my goals as an athlete. Right now the games is never going to be on my mind, but there are things that I want to do at a higher level, and things I wouldn't have been able to even attempt doing because I didn't have the time to train like I do now. And then also it just lets me start learning new things, taking classes that I wouldn't have had time to do beforehand, and then also starting to build up a business and clientele, and starting to help people do what I do in a way, not necessarily the exact same, but, learn that they can do things that make them happy, and they can eat food that doesn't suck, and, things like that. So that's definitely been a blessing in disguise, because, at first I didn't really realize it, but now I'm like, yeah, this has been good. As much as it can wear on you some days, being stuck inside all the time, or just, being able to go out for walks here and there, it's definitely, you have to kind of appreciate what you have and where you're going. So it's been a good thing for me.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, right? And most of the time, the lessons that you need are actually covered in a lot of shit, and you need to kind of you need to go through that, and you're like, oh my god, this is awful. Like, why am I doing this sort of thing? And the next thing you know, you pull out that gem, the diamond in the rough sort of thing. And you're like, oh wow, like, okay, cool, yeah, this is what I need to do. And then you start gaining momentum, and it goes forward. And you mentioned something, and it's a really weird concept of like, people, we pour water from our glass, right? We pour energy into our job, yet people don't do anything that puts water back into the glass. And how are you supposed to pour for an empty cup? That's when people end up getting sick, and they take it out on other people, and they end up having this crisis, you know what I mean? And they're like, hit breaking point, and they're like, whoa, it's because you're doing something that just takes all of your energy, and you're not getting anything back. Like, yes, do something you love and are passionate about, and plow your energy into it. However, it should give you some energy back.
Yeah.
That same thing should be like a cycle. Like, you pour it in there, and it's also pouring it back into you, so you can give more and do more. And you should enjoy what you do, which is easy for us to say because we found it.
Yeah.
And it's difficult when you don't necessarily know what it is. But hey, do a job, and if you hate it, that's not it. Do another one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easier said than done, I guess, for some people, but it's very true. Yeah, if you hate it, don't do it. And I know a lot of people don't necessarily have the option sometimes to obviously stop working. So, but I will say there are always ways. It just might take longer.
I think people just need to make a decision, right? It's just like, oh, okay, like, people are bitching and moaning, and you don't necessarily like the position you're in now. Okay, great. So make a decision. Are you going to do something about it, or you're not? And you've got to, so you've made your bed either way. So now you've got to sleep in it, and just be like, well, you made a decision to do something about it. And if the first way didn't work, or the 1,001st way didn't work, it doesn't matter. You just keep finding until, you find a way, you make a way, sort of thing. Because you made that decision, and just stick with it and just keep going.
Yeah, definitely. You have to, lie in it. It's that's the way it is for you. Then you got to kind of deal with it, I guess. It's true.
So what was it like coming from gymnastics and then going into CrossFit? What was that like?
Well, I mean, it was, other than the fact that I was just out of shape, it was a pretty easy transition for me. I mean, you've probably heard it a bajillion times from games athletes or even people that aren't games athletes. If you do gymnastics or something that is technical and also needs a lot of body awareness, dance, wrestling, cheerleading, things like that, I feel like anybody that did something like that when they were younger or older, really, they tend to kind of jump into CrossFit a little bit easier. So for me, it was, I was very out of shape. I wasn't as strong as I used to be, but because I had the body awareness, I learned things very easily. Because, someone could say to me like, okay, you, for the snatch, you need to be bringing your hips to the bar, not the bar to you. You could say that to somebody, but if they have absolutely no idea what their body is doing, they're not going to get it. They just don't get it. And so people could say that, a coach could say that to me, and I would be able to think in my mind, okay, I feel my muscles doing this when I'm bringing my hips to the bar versus the other way around. So I know what I need to be feeling to do that movement correctly. So that it was an easy transition. Obviously for the gymnastic skills, I didn't really have a lot of problems there. I already knew how to do all the stuff. It was just a matter of getting the strength back. Because everyone, celebrates the bar muscle up or the muscle up. And it's like, I knew how to do a bar muscle up already, because that's like one of the first things you ever learn as a gymnast is how to do that. So I already knew, my body was like, I know how to do this, but I just didn't have enough upper body strength to do it anymore. I obviously was quite a bit heavier than I used to be when I was a competitive gymnast. You're obviously hormonally, as a female, you're changing, your body's completely different than what it used to be, especially when you're a competitive gymnast. So those things I had to kind of get used to, like being like, all right, this is a little bit different now. But, a lot of my friends still like to make fun of me for the first time I got my bar muscle up, because it was like 3 months after I'd been doing CrossFit, and I just like did it. And they're like, what? Like, they were so pissed. And I was like, but I already knew how to do it. My body knew exactly what to do, but I wasn't strong enough day one. So then 3 months in, I've gained up, the strength back to do it. And they were just like, they're still mad about it. I still have some friends that are like pissed about it. They're like, oh, I remember coming in the back door and you were up at the top of the bar, and so-and-so asked you, did you just get your muscle up? And you were just like, yeah, like, whatever, it's so great. And they were like, I hate you. And they like walked out, and I was like, oh, sorry. I was like, yep, I remember that day. I do. But it was a good time. But that stuff was really easy for me to get used to doing again. I'm still building up the strength for things like ring muscle ups and handstand push-ups. I have it, but I would like to be better. So things like that are always things you have to improve on. You always have to get stronger to be more I guess endurance wise in those particular movements, because a lot of times that's what it comes down to. After you gain the strength, you have to gain the endurance in the muscles as well. So that's stuff I'm still working on, but it was definitely an easy transition. So anybody that I know, any of my old gymnast friends or cheerleading friends, if they're like, how do you like CrossFit, I'm always like, definitely do it, because you would just get so good at it so easily, and then everyone would be so mad and jealous of you, but but you would like it, and then you would be good at it, so it's nice. But I definitely think anything that, like I said, body awareness, sports are like key when it comes to doing CrossFit.
Yeah,
People that have
100%.
like played soccer, yeah, they might be okay, but a lot of times they're like, I don't know what to do with my upper body. I've only used my legs, you know. So it's definitely a different type of learning for sure for those people.
That's the same experience I've had with anyone who's come in and who's been a ex-gymnast or, you know, cheerleader, even rock climbers. Like they're still pretty good. They know what's going on. And you're just like, all right, do this, and they're just like, okay. Like, what the fuck? How did you get that so quickly? You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna try and do this. Like, okay. Like I do remember, what was it, his third or fourth session? I took a bloke through some fundamentals. We had 5 sessions. I think it was his second to last one, so it was his 4th session. He ends up doing a muscle up. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you've never done this before. Like, what's going on? He's just like, well, yeah, you said do this and I did it. Just like, okay. Like, good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you got like, you spin that on the head, and if someone's never worked out before, never done anything physical, never played any sport, and you're like, okay, cool. I want you to finish with the med ball in front of your chest. And they're like, okay, coach, I understand. Next thing you know, they're like, okay, 3, 2, 1, go. And they put it above their head. You're just like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
No. Like in front of your chest, like here, you bring them down. They're like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm like, all right, wicked. We'll try again. Like 3, 2, 1, go. They put it above the head again. Just like, what? Is your chest above your head? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. That is a very true statement. That happened to me too as a therapist. I would have patients that you would be like, all right, now I want you to straighten your arm. And they would like keep bending it. And you're like, do you not like straighten your arm? You have to, all you got to do is straighten your arm. Like, I don't know, like what? My old coworker used to call them motor morons. She was like, they're just a motor moron. Like they don't know what to do with their body. And I'm like, it's the perfect way to describe it, because yeah, they just, they can't help it, you know, but because they haven't learned and they've been doing whatever for 25 plus years, you know, they don't know. But it is funny because you're just like, what? Sometimes you're like, I don't understand why you don't get that, but then they learn, you know, they get better. Just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, it takes a little longer, like you said, but it's a miracle they don't hurt themselves getting out of bed in the morning. I'm like, how do you live your life if you don't know how to like straighten your friggin' arm?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, you
what's going
definitely
on?
do wonder things like that. You're like, well, how'd you lift that box up to your counter if you didn't know how to do a squat? You just wonder sometimes. You're like, I don't know. And then you're probably like, well, maybe that is why your back hurts, because you're lifting something the wrong way because you don't know how to do it properly. So that's the other side of it too, probably.
It's funny how most things end up, you know, not fixing themselves, but you can understand it a lot more, and then you help yourself, and it ends up improving simply by understanding your own body and how it moves and all that. Like, just understand what's going on, and then we can move forward. Like, I've got an athlete at the moment, like he's got a little bit of sciatica. I had a little bit of a problem with this. It's not massive, like massively problematic, but it's messing her up a little bit. So I'm there explaining, okay, this is what's actually happened. This is the reason why. This is why we're doing this, and this. And they're like, oh, okay. And then psychologically too, she can stick with the program rather than being like, oh no, this isn't working right now. I'm gonna go try this. And I'm like, whoa. Follow the breadcrumbs and it will lead you to fucking Hansel and Gretel's house. Like, but you just got to keep following the breadcrumbs.
Yeah. I mean, that goes with a lot of things, not even just body movements and different things like that. It's like teaching people how to eat properly and how to just be healthy, just be a healthy person. It's like they see all these things, which is unfortunate in our industry that the stuff is out there. It makes me very angry seeing things on TV that are just so misleading or so not necessarily right up dangerous, but is essentially could be very dangerous for somebody. But you're like, okay, well, you don't need this detox tea to gain or to lose weight. You don't need it. Or people are always like, well, my liver needs to detox. And you're like, no, your liver, that's what it does. It detoxes things on its own. That's its job. And people just, it can be really hard. And again, there's all that crap out there. It's just teaching people just so many bad habits. And it's like, you don't know how to start like to fix it, but you're like, for me, I'm trying like little by little to be like, no, this is right. Like, do these things. Like, I promise it's gonna be easier if you do this. I promise. Like, it's the simplest of tasks, and people want to make it so complex and so like beyond things that are just like drink water, eat healthy, eat vegetables, eat fruit, like all these things. Like, I don't know why that is just like beyond people to understand that.
It
But they're like, no,
requires
I need this.
it requires more work though, right? And it's like they kind of look at it and be like, it can't be that simple. I need to pay my money or take this pill or whatever. And then it also like, it kind of gives the question of Western medicine is based upon, all right, if you're ill or if there's any problems, you just take medicine. Like
Yeah.
it's always pills or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
already ingrained in people's heads of like, oh, well, I'm not where I want to be, so there must be a pill out there, or there must be a tea out there, or whatever. And I'm like, holy shit, mate.
Yeah.
How did we get here without those things? Like, well, I don't know. I was like, exactly. So use your common sense. And I was like, first of all, you're wasting a load of money, and is it working? They're like, I might have lost, I don't know, half a pound. Like,
Yeah.
you lost half a pound because you've stopped eating dessert.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yeah. It's a funny world we live in when it comes to that stuff. And that is like definitely one of the things I'm like trying to teach people to stop that, because it is just, I mean, sometimes you have to laugh at, not at them as at the clients, but like at the things out there, because you're just
oh yeah,
like, you look at something and it just looks absolutely ridiculous. Like it's comical. And then you sit there and you're like, how did somebody buy that?
yeah.
Like, didn't they laugh at it? Is it just me? And you just wonder, you're like, didn't somebody else think it just looked funny? Why would you be like, this looks weird, I think it's going to work for me? Like, I don't know. That's just maybe that's not how I think, but it's sometimes it just makes you wonder. You're like, I don't know. Cause when I see something and I'm like, that looks weird. Like, why would I use that? Like, it just looks weird. I wouldn't use that. Like, it's like the same thing as like maybe not wanting to do a certain exercise because you feel weird doing it. It's like, I don't know, if you feel weird doing it, why would you do it? Like, I don't know.
Like
That's
what
just kind of like,
what are these little like step things people get to put underneath their desk where it's like
oh
it's kind of
yeah,
on a
yeah.
piston? I'm like,
Yep.
if you want to get your steps in, mate, get off your ass.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or if you're working from home, like a lot of people are now, it's like, get a treadmill. Walk on your treadmill while you're reading your whatever for work or something. It's definitely like, there's a lot of things you could do just to get exercise instead of doing those just silly things. It just blows my mind.
even like work calls, or you're on a longer phone call, just walk around your house or go for a walk outside. And like
Yeah.
it's usually, if I'm going to be on a pretty long call, usually it's to like my brothers or whatever, like it doesn't require me to take notes.
Right.
I'll stick my headphones in, and then I'll just go outside and just start walking around like aimlessly. It's like, well, you could be like lie down or sat down all this time, or you can go out and just kind of walk around, and then the next thing you come in and you're a little bit more refreshed. You've had those endorphins. Your back doesn't
Yeah.
hurt as much because your hip flexors aren't as tight as a duck's asshole, and you can sit down and actually do some work.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's definitely easier than people make it see, which is something I want to teach people. Like it's easy, I promise.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
The hard part is the
It
time.
doesn't, yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't go as fast as you want it to, but in terms of the actual work, it's pretty easy, you know, like, but yeah, we all, you know, want that quick fix. I mean, I'm just as guilty of being like, I want this to be this now. Granted, I know that's not realistic and that's not how things get done. But there are times that you still sit there and you're like, well, I want my back squat to be at 300 pounds like tomorrow, but you have to work to get there. And, you know, it is sad that we just live in this world where people are like, it should be here fast. It should be here now. Like, that's just how it should work. And now there are some things that I do agree need to be like that, but not your health and your wellness and, you know, your overall, you know, fitness and things like that. That's not how it works. But Amazon Prime, yeah, I do want that to come quickly, you know, things like that. But internet connection, we want that to be fast, but those are very different than just a general lifestyle. And like, people don't realize, like, your life is your life. I mean, hopefully for most of us, we live to be, you know, 100 years old. And if you think about it that way, like, you're not going to just, you shouldn't think, oh, I want it to go fast, because you live for a long time. So why do you think it's going to just be there now? You know, you need to be working at it for your whole life. That's what it is. It's a lifestyle change. It's a lifestyle journey. And so many people just don't look at it that way. And it's hard to change people's minds to be like, this is for the long run. It's not a short fix. Like, you have to do it to live until you're 100, if that's what you want, you know, play with your grandkids and do all these things. So it's a tough pill to swallow for some people, I guess, but trying to educate as much as possible is all we can do, you know, as people in this world, in the fitness world. So little by little, maybe somebody will pass that on, and it'll eventually, hopefully in the future, be an easy thing and people will just kind of get, and then they'll just do it that way. You know what I mean?
I mean, build it and they'll come, right? So it's like, hey, just keep throwing good stuff out there, and eventually, you know, heads start turning, and it creates a little bit of momentum. And you absolutely hit the nail on the head and said it's a journey. And people think about it as a destination too often. They're like, oh, it's this, or it's when I gain this, or do this, or lose this amount of weight, or whatever. It's like, geez, like, it's like topsy-turvy, you know. It doesn't matter what happens, the tide will come in and the tide will go out twice a day.
Yeah.
That's what health and wellness is. It doesn't matter what happens. Like, it will change, it will adapt, it will grow, it will decay, or whatever. And you need to give it some loving, and it's a journey. You need to go up and you need to come down with it, and you need to learn the lessons for both. So then hopefully, you know, we can stay on a high in our wellness and fitness and health more times than we're on a low. But both end up giving you those lessons, and it's both part of the journey, right?
Yeah, I agree for sure. It is a journey.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Definitely is. If people wanted to find you, mate, where would you end up sending them?
Personally, like in person, or just like virtually?
No, I wouldn't go giving out your address or anything, but
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, people can obviously check my Instagram. Earlywine Fitness is the handle name. I also have a Facebook page as well under that same name. Currently in the process of building up a website, but that's going to be a little bit of time, work in progress. Kind of trying to get my house moved in before that happens, and then continue on with that. But I've started doing that, so hopefully that will be up and running at least in a month or so is the goal. And then I do have an email address as well, which I think it's on, no, it's not on my Instagram, but it is on my Facebook page, so people can also send an email. Oh no, it is on my Instagram. I take that back. So if they click the email button on my page, they could send me an email that way. So that's another way to get in touch as well.
Perfect.
So yeah.
I really appreciate your time, mate. It's been awesome.
Yeah, of course. That's been fun. Even though I was like really nervous, I'm glad I did it because it was a good time.
It's just a conversation, like there's no need to be nervous. This is not the BBC. You're not gonna get like a huge introduction or the fucking slides are coming over, you know what I mean? I'm like, hey, I'm drinking a coffee, we're having a good chat, and then hopefully if someone likes it, great. If people don't, whatever. We've had a good chat.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll let you get on with your day, and I'm gonna go eat some dinner.
Nice.
It's nighttime now, and then you're gonna start your breakfast, I would assume.
Yes, it's actually Valentine's Day here.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Today.
Yeah, so you can treat somebody to something special, or treat yourself. Either way.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good time.